Olivia Blackwood arrived at Serenity Salon in downtown Westridge at 7:30 a.m. sharp, just like every other morning for the past 10 years. At 34 years old, with her chestnut hair tied in a casual messy bun and her slender frame dressed in a simple black outfit, she blended perfectly among the other stylists. That was exactly how Olivia preferred it. Unnoticed, unremarkable, just another hairdresser with nimble fingers and a pleasant smile. The locals knew her as the quiet stylist who could transform any bad hair day into a masterpiece. But no one suspected she once transformed battlefields as one of the military's most lethal precision shooters. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. "Morning, Liv," called out Diana, the salon owner, as she unlocked the glass door. "Mrs. Patterson's coming in at 9 for her weekly blowout. Says she only wants you touching her hair." Olivia nodded with a practiced smile while setting up her station. Her well-worn hands arranged combs, scissors, and brushes with methodical precision. The same hands that once assembled sniper rifles in complete darkness and held steady through sandstorms and firefights. "No problem. I've got her favorite products ready," Olivia replied, her voice soft and melodic, betraying nothing of the woman who once communicated only in tactical whispers and hand signals. The morning proceeded like hundreds before it. Clients came and went, sharing gossip and life updates, while Olivia transformed their appearance with the same focus she once applied to high-value targets. She listened attentively, offered appropriate responses, and kept her own life carefully guarded behind a wall of professional pleasantness. "My son just enlisted in the Marines," Mrs. Patterson mentioned proudly as Olivia worked the round brush through her silver-streaked hair. "Following his father's footsteps, he leaves for boot camp next month." "That's wonderful," Olivia replied with genuine warmth. "The Corps is a fine choice." Mrs. Patterson raised an eyebrow in the mirror. "You sound like you know something about it." Olivia's hands never faltered as she redirected the conversation. "My cousin served, told me all about it." The lie came easily after years of practice. She'd crafted an entirely fictional family history to explain away any military knowledge that might accidentally slip out. By noon, the salon hummed with activity. 5 stylists worked their stations while clients chatted beneath dryers or waited on plush chairs, scrolling through phones. Olivia moved efficiently between clients, her situational awareness never dimming despite the years away from combat. She still noted every entrance and exit, still tracked movement in her peripheral vision, still positioned herself to observe the street through the large front windows. "Girl, you need to relax," laughed Tanya, the youngest stylist, as she caught Olivia scanning the room again. "You act like someone's going to bust in here and rob us mid-highlight." Olivia forced a chuckle. "Just checking if my next appointment arrived." In truth, her hypervigilance had saved lives during her 8 years as a scout sniper attached to Marine reconnaissance units. Being the rare female sniper meant proving herself constantly, outperforming her male counterparts to earn her place. She'd done exactly that, setting marksmanship records that still stood, and completing missions deemed nearly impossible. Then a classified operation went catastrophically wrong, and despite her actions saving most of her team, the political fallout had ended her career. The details remained classified, her achievements buried in redacted files, her skills relegated to civilian life, where the steadiest hands in her battalion now applied hair color instead of calculating windage. At 5:30 p.m., Olivia's last client left with a stylish bob and beaming smile. The salon would remain open for another hour, but her schedule was clear. "I'm going to restock supplies in the back," she told Diana before disappearing into the storage room. This daily ritual gave her 30 minutes of solitude, time to decompress and run through mental drills that kept her skills sharp. While organizing bottles of shampoo and boxes of hair color, she'd calculate distances, visualize breathing techniques, and mentally rehearse the precision movements that had once been her life. Diana stuck her head through the doorway. "Liv, do you have plans Saturday? The girls and I are going to that new bar downtown." Olivia arranged color boxes by number sequence, the organizational habit left over from her armory days. "Thanks, but I've got plans." "You always have plans," Diana sighed. "One day you'll actually tell us what you do outside this salon." Quote. What Olivia did was maintain a rigorous training regimen at a private shooting range 40 miles outside town, where she kept her skills honed to military precision. What she did was live in a modest house with reinforced doors, specialized locks, and a hidden room containing her collection of precision rifles, each one legal, each one maintained with obsessive care, each one representing a different chapter in her former life. That evening, as Olivia drove home along the familiar route, she noticed an unusual vehicle parked 2 houses down from hers, a black SUV with government plates. Her pulse quickened as training kicked in. She drove past her house, circled the block, and approached from another angle, parking several doors away. Using her compact mirror, she surveyed the street before exiting her car. Nothing seemed immediately threatening, but years of experience had taught her to trust her instincts. Instead of entering through the front, she circled to her neighbor's yard and slipped over the fence into her backyard. Mrs. Winters next door thought Olivia was simply private. She never suspected her friendly hairdresser neighbor was employing counter-surveillance techniques. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Olivia entered through her back door, disabled her security system, and moved silently through the darkened house. She retrieved a handgun from a hidden compartment in the kitchen before methodically clearing each room. Finding nothing disturbed, she finally relaxed marginally and switched on a light. The government vehicle remained on her street for 3 days. Olivia altered her routines, took different routes to work, and kept her guard raised. On the 4th day, the vehicle was gone, but her unease remained. Someone had been watching her, and in her experience, that never preceded anything good. 2 weeks later, Olivia arrived at the salon to find Diana in an unusual state of excitement. "You will not believe who just called for appointments," she bubbled, practically bouncing. "A whole group of Marines. They're in town for some kind of training exercise and need haircuts to stay within regulation. 7 of them coming in this afternoon." Olivia's face remained neutral while her mind calculated risks. Marines in her salon meant potential recognition, however slim. She'd worked primarily with reconnaissance units, not regular infantry, and her service records were heavily redacted. Still, the coincidence following the surveillance vehicle concerned her. "That's great," she said, adopting Diana's enthusiasm. "Good for business. And they specifically asked for our most experienced stylists, so you'll be taking 2 of them," Diana added, completely missing Olivia's momentary tension. The Marines arrived at 3 p.m., filing into the salon with the disciplined movements of men accustomed to formation. They were polite, respectful, and brought an energy that transformed the usually tranquil salon into something livelier. Civilians turned to stare at the uniformed men, and the female stylists exchanged appreciative glances. Olivia's first client, Staff Sergeant Miller, settled into her chair with a friendly nod. "Just a standard high and tight, ma'am. Nothing fancy." As she draped him with the cutting cape, Olivia kept her demeanor professional and detached. She'd learned long ago how to become nearly invisible while hiding in plain sight, how to deflect attention and avoid memorable interactions. "You got a good setup here," Miller commented as she began cutting. "Reminds me of the barbershop back on base." "Thank you," Olivia replied, focusing on his hairline. "Have you been stationed locally long?" "Just temporary assignment," he said. "Training exercise with the local reserve unit. Where are you from originally?" The question was innocent enough, but Olivia had perfected the art of revealing nothing while seeming to engage. "Grew up all over. Military family." Miller nodded. "Thought so. You've got the bearing." She smiled noncommittally and redirected the conversation to his preference for tapering at the sides. The haircut proceeded without incident, and Miller seemed satisfied with both the result and the minimal conversation. Her second appointment, Captain Rhodes, proved more observant. As Olivia worked, she noticed his eyes in the mirror, not admiring her technique, but studying her hands, her posture, the deliberate efficiency of her movements. "You've got unusual calluses for a hairdresser," he remarked casually after several minutes of silence. Olivia's scissors never paused. Piano player, classical training since childhood. Another element of her fabricated background, complete with a piano in her living room, that she had indeed learned to play during her years in hiding. "Interesting," Rhodes replied. "My sister plays. Different pattern of calluses entirely." The statement hung between them, neither accusation nor acceptance. Olivia changed techniques, using her comb to direct attention away from her hands. "How short would you like it at the back?" Rhodes held her gaze in the mirror for a beat too long before answering. When she finished his cut, he thanked her politely, left an appropriate tip, and rejoined his colleagues. Nothing in his demeanor suggested suspicion, but Olivia had spent years reading micro-expressions. Captain Rhodes was curious about her. After the Marines departed, the salon buzzed with animated conversation. "Did you see the arms on that sergeant?" Tanya gushed. "I nearly asked him to flex during the shampoo." "The captain was quite the gentleman," Diana added, "said they might be back before they leave town." Olivia cleaned her station meticulously, her mind calculating risk factors. The chances of being recognized were minimal. Her name had changed, her appearance altered. Her service records were classified, her missions unacknowledged. Still, something about Captain Rhodes's scrutiny unsettled her. That weekend, instead of her usual trip to the private range, Olivia stayed home. She opened the hidden room behind her bedroom closet and inspected her collection. 8 precision rifles, each customized to her specifications, each maintained in perfect firing condition. She disassembled and cleaned each one, though they were already immaculate. The ritual calmed her, reconnecting her to the identity she'd been forced to abandon. The centerpiece of her collection was an M40A5, the standard Marine Corps sniper rifle she'd used to set a distance record during her second deployment. Beside it rested her custom Remington MSR, modified with a carbon fiber barrel and specialized trigger assembly. Each weapon represented hundreds of hours of training, each scope calibrated precisely to her vision, each stock adjusted to fit her frame perfectly. Olivia had never intended to build a collection. After leaving the service, she'd planned to sever all connections to her past life. But during her first year as a civilian, the nightmares had nearly broken her. Panic attacks, hypervigilance, the constant feeling of being exposed. Standard symptoms of PTSD compounded by the abrupt transition and the classified nature of her departure that prevented normal debriefing and processing. She'd found that reconnecting with the tools of her former profession helped. Not using them for violence, but maintaining them. Handling them with the same precision and care she'd been trained to employ. The collection became both therapy and connection to her true self. Monday morning brought rain and unusually light salon traffic. Olivia was finishing a simple trim when the bell above the door chimed. She glanced up to see Captain Rhodes entering, alone and in civilian clothes. Her heart rate increased slightly, but her hands remained steady as she completed the final touches on her client's hair. "All finished, Mrs. Henderson. See you next month," she said pleasantly, helping the elderly woman from the chair. Diana approached the captain with her appointment book. "Welcome back! Do you need another trim so soon?" "Actually," Rhodes said, his eyes finding Olivia, "I was hoping to speak with Ms. Blackwood about a private matter." The salon went quiet. In 10 years, Olivia had never received a personal visitor at work. Her carefully constructed boundaries between professional and private life never overlapped. "I'm with clients all day," Olivia said, her voice neutral but firm. "It's important," Rhodes replied. Something in his tone made Diana glance between them with sudden interest. "Take your lunch break, Liv," she suggested. "It's slow today anyway." Finding no graceful exit, Olivia nodded. 15 minutes. She grabbed her jacket and led Rhodes outside, choosing the busy sidewalk over the privacy of a cafe. Harder to have a classified conversation in public. "What can I help you with, Captain?" she asked once they were outside, walking at a brisk pace that prevented easy conversation. Rhodes matched her stride effortlessly. "I think you know." "I'm afraid I don't." "Your hands," he said simply, "not just the calluses. The way you handle your tools, precision movements, economy of motion, very distinctive training." Olivia kept walking, expression unchanged. "I've been cutting hair for 10 years, developed specific muscle memory. So does spending thousands of hours behind a precision rifle." When she didn't respond, he continued, "Ghost 1. The codename hit her like physical impact, though she revealed nothing outwardly. Ghost 1 had been her call sign during classified operations, known only to those with the highest security clearances and the teams she'd worked with directly. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said evenly. Rhodes stopped walking, forcing her to either stop or appear to flee. She stopped, turning to face him with the composed expression of someone merely inconvenienced. "May 2011, Helmand Province," he said quietly. "Reconnaissance team compromised during intelligence gathering. surrounded, communications jammed. 8 insurgents neutralized from positions calculated to be physically impossible for a shooter. Olivia's face betrayed nothing, but her mind raced through operational details. The mission he described had been her third with reconnaissance forces, a situation gone catastrophically wrong that had ended with her making shots beyond authorized parameters to save the team. "And?" she asked, as if the story held no particular significance. "I was there," Rhodes said. "Lieutenant Rhodes, then, the team leader." This was unexpected. Rhodes would have been evacuated with injuries before she made contact with the team. The operational brief had listed him as unconscious during extraction. "I was semi-conscious during evac," he continued, as if reading her thoughts. "Caught glimpses of our guardian angel. Never saw a face, just a shooter smaller than standard operators, moving with distinct precision. For years, I've heard whispers about Ghost 1. Female sniper. Operational details classified beyond my clearance. Record shots that saved dozens of lives across multiple deployments." Olivia checked her watch. "My break's almost over, Captain." "Rhodes. James," he corrected. "I'm not here officially. No one sent me." "Then why are you here?" The question escaped before she could contain it. "Recognition," he said simply. "When you've encountered exceptional skill that saved your life, you don't forget it. Your movements are distinctive. Way you handled those scissors. Same precision, same control. I've spent years wondering about the shooter who saved my team when all tactical options were exhausted." Olivia weighed her options carefully. Denial was safest, but something about Rhodes suggested trustworthiness. After years of anonymity, being truly seen was unexpectedly affecting. "You're mistaken," she said finally. "But even if you weren't, what would be the point of this conversation?" "Closure," Rhodes replied, "and gratitude." She met his gaze directly. "The best gratitude for a sniper is never acknowledging their existence." Rhodes nodded slowly, understanding the fundamental truth of covert operations. "Fair enough. But if you were her, I'd want you to know that what you did mattered. That the lives you saved went on to mean something." Something in Olivia's carefully maintained facade softened almost imperceptibly. For years, she'd lived with the uncertainty of whether her actions had ultimately made any difference. The nature of her operations meant never knowing final outcomes, never receiving confirmation of success or failure beyond the immediate tactical situation. "I need to get back to work," she said, turning toward the salon. "Of course," Rhodes replied, "but if Ghost 1 were still around, I'd want her to know she's not forgotten, and that some of us are still watching her back." The statement carried weight beyond its words, an assurance that someone understood the sacrifices made in shadows, the cost of operations that officially never happened, the burden of skills that couldn't be acknowledged. Olivia returned to the salon with her composure intact but her mind processing the unexpected encounter. For 10 years, she'd been Olivia Blackwood, hairstylist. For 10 minutes, someone had recognized her as Ghost 1. The sensation was both disturbing and oddly validating. The remainder of the week passed without further incident. Rhodes didn't return, and the Marines completed their training exercise and departed the area. Olivia maintained her routines, cutting hair by day and returning to her fortified home each night, but something had shifted internally. Being recognized, however briefly, had awakened something she'd forced into dormancy. Saturday morning, Olivia drove to her private range as usual. The facility, owned by a retired military contractor who asked no questions, provided the isolation she needed to maintain her skills. She unloaded her equipment with practiced efficiency and set up at the farthest firing position, well away from the handful of weekend shooters. Her ritual never varied. Breathing exercises first, then dry fire practice, then gradually increasing distances. She worked methodically through position adjustments, wind calculations, and precision trigger control. Hours passed as she maintained the edge that had once made her exceptional. Not for deployment, not for combat, but because excellence had become fundamental to her identity. Engrossed in adjusting her scope for a 1,000-yard shot, Olivia didn't immediately notice the vehicle approaching until it was halfway down the long access road. Her spotter scope identified it instantly, the same black SUV with government plates that had surveilled her home. Her training took over. She broke down her rifle with swift, practiced movements, packed her equipment, and was halfway to her car when the SUV parked. 2 men emerged. one in military dress uniform with colonel's eagles, the other in the unmistakable dark suit of government agency personnel. Olivia calculated escape routes automatically, but something about the colonel's bearing gave her pause. He walked with the confidence of command, but also with the slight adjustment in gait that spoke of combat injuries. The agency man hung back, giving the colonel space to approach alone. "Ms. Blackwood," the colonel called when he was 20 feet away. "Or would you prefer your former rank, Captain?" Olivia set down her equipment case but remained standing. "Blackwood is fine." The colonel nodded. "Colonel Frank Mitchell, Marine Corps Special Operations Command. May I speak with you for a moment?" "You found me at a shooting range on private property after surveilling my home," Olivia replied evenly. "I think formalities are somewhat redundant." Mitchell smiled slightly. "Direct as ever, from what I've heard." "What do you want, Colonel?" "To offer you an opportunity." He gestured to a nearby bench. "May we sit?" Olivia remained standing. "I prefer clarity first." "Fair enough." Mitchell straightened to his full height. "I've recently been tasked with developing specialized training programs for our precision shooters. Not just technical skills, but the adaptive thinking and decision-making capabilities that define exceptional operators. The kind of training that can't be taught from standard manuals." "There are plenty of qualified instructors available," Olivia noted. "Instructors who follow doctrine," Mitchell agreed. "I'm looking for someone who redefined it. Ghost One." The use of her call sign in the open, from a colonel she'd never met, was jarring. That program was classified. "Still is," Mitchell confirmed. "But I have the clearance and the need to know. Your operational record, though heavily redacted even to me, shows tactical innovations that saved lives in situations where standard approaches would have failed. That's what I want to capture and transmit to a new generation." Olivia studied him carefully. "How did you find me?" "Captain Rhodes made a discreet inquiry through channels after meeting you. It reached my desk, given my current assignment. The captain didn't compromise your identity, merely suggested that a valuable asset might be available to assist our training programs." "I've been out for 10 years, Olivia said. "Circumstances of my departure weren't exactly ceremonial." Mitchell nodded grimly. "The Kandahar operation. Political fallout from actions that saved 16 lives but contradicted standing orders. I've read what's available." Olivia remained silent. The Kandahar operation had been her last, a hostage situation gone catastrophically wrong where she'd made shots that violated rules of engagement but prevented a massacre. The aftermath had included classified hearings, redacted reports, and her quiet separation from service without the recognition her record deserved. "That decision came from levels far above operational command," Mitchell continued. "But perspectives change. New administration, new priorities. Your skills are now viewed as an asset to be utilized rather than a liability to be contained." "For what purpose?" "Training," Mitchell repeated. "We have operators with technical proficiency but lacking the adaptive decision-making and tactical innovation you demonstrated consistently. 2-week specialized courses, 4 times annually. You determine content, you control methodology." Olivia processed the offer carefully. "And my current life?" "Remains intact. This wouldn't be a return to active duty. It's a specialized contractor role. You maintain your civilian identity, your privacy. We provide appropriate compensation and resources." For the first time in years, Olivia felt a stirring of the purpose that had defined her military career. Not the adrenaline of operations, but the opportunity to ensure others had the skills to survive impossible situations. "I'll need time to consider this," she said finally. Mitchell handed her a plain business card with only a phone number. "Take all the time you need. This isn't an impulsive decision." As he turned to leave, Olivia asked the question that had lingered since Rhodes's appearance. "How many know about me?" Mitchell paused. "Your full operational history? 3 people, including myself. Your existence as Ghost One? Perhaps a dozen, all with appropriate clearance. Your current identity? Just myself, my security attaché, and Captain Rhodes." "Keep it that way," Olivia said, her tone making it a condition rather than a request. "Understood," Mitchell replied with the respect of one professional acknowledging another's boundaries. After they departed, Olivia completed her shooting session with mechanical precision, but her mind processed the unexpected development. For 10 years, she'd lived in carefully constructed anonymity, her exceptional skills known only to herself. Now she faced the possibility of reconnecting with the identity she'd been forced to abandon, not as an operator, but as a teacher. That evening, as she cleaned her rifles in the hidden room of her house, Olivia considered Mitchell's offer. The rhythm of maintenance had always clarified her thinking. The methodical disassembly, cleaning, and reassembly, mirroring the process of breaking complex problems into manageable components. Teaching others would mean exposure, however limited. It would mean acknowledging her past openly to select personnel. It would mean stepping out of the shadows she'd inhabited for a decade. The risks were significant, but calculated. Equally significant was the opportunity. Her experiences, if properly transmitted, could save lives in situations where standard procedures weren't sufficient. The techniques she'd developed, the adaptive thinking she'd employed, these weren't documented in any manual but lived only in her muscle memory and tactical understanding. As she reassembled her favorite rifle, fitting each component with precision born of thousands of repetitions, Olivia reached her decision. Some skills were earned through surviving impossible situations, but their true value came in ensuring others developed the capability to create their own impossible survivals when circumstances demanded it. The following Monday at the salon proceeded like any other. Olivia transformed hairstyles with the same focus and precision she always demonstrated, maintained pleasant conversation with clients, and gave no indication that anything had changed. But beneath the surface, something fundamental had shifted. After 10 years of living as someone less than she was, Olivia had decided to reclaim a portion of her true identity. During her lunch break, she stepped outside and dialed the number Mitchell had provided. "I'll do it," she said when he answered, "but on my terms. My civilian life remains primary. Training sessions work around my schedule, not vice versa, and my methods remain mine to determine." "Agreed on all counts," Mitchell replied without hesitation. "When can you start?" Quote. Olivia glanced back at the salon where she'd hidden in plain sight for a decade. "I have a 2-week vacation scheduled next month. We can begin then." As she ended the call and returned to the salon, Olivia felt a sense of alignment she hadn't experienced since before Kandahar. For 10 years, she'd been living a fraction of her potential, her exceptional abilities confined to private maintenance of skills she couldn't acknowledge. Now she had the opportunity to ensure those skills served a purpose beyond personal preservation. Diana looked up as Olivia re-entered the salon. "Everything okay?" "You seem different today." Olivia smiled, the expression more genuine than usual. "Everything's fine. Just finalizing some plans for my vacation." "Anywhere exciting?" Diana asked, accustomed to Olivia's vague responses about personal matters. "Just reconnecting with some old colleagues," Olivia replied, the closest to the truth she'd come in years. That evening, as Olivia drove home, she noticed the familiar black SUV parked down the street from her house. This time, instead of employing counter-surveillance techniques, she parked normally and approached the vehicle directly. The window lowered as she neared. "Ms. Blackwood," nodded the security attaché she'd seen with Mitchell at the range. "If we're going to work together," Olivia said quietly, "the surveillance stops now. I see another unmarked vehicle near my home or workplace. Our arrangement ends immediately." The man studied her for a moment before nodding. "Understood. Standard protocol is continuous monitoring of assets, but Colonel Mitchell anticipated your position. He's authorized modified procedures in your case." "Not an asset," Olivia corrected. "A contractor with specific boundaries." "Noted," the man replied with professional deference. "For the record, it's an honor to meet you. Your Helmand province operation is still discussed in certain training circles, though without attribution." Olivia didn't acknowledge the comment. "We're done here." As the SUV pulled away, Olivia felt a weightlifting that she hadn't fully acknowledged carrying. 10 years of looking over her shoulder, of wondering if her past would resurface in ways she couldn't control. Now that past was being deliberately, selectively reintegrated on her terms. Inside her house, Olivia opened the hidden room and surveyed her collection. Each rifle represented a different phase of her operational history, from her earliest deployments to the specialized missions that had earned her the Ghost One designation. For years, they had been memorials to a life she'd been forced to abandon. Now, they would become teaching tools, their history and capabilities shared with a select few who needed the knowledge they represented. As she ran her hand along the custom stock of her competition rifle, Olivia realized that her decade in hiding had not diminished her skills but refined them. The patience required to maintain her cover, the precision transferred to hairstyling, the situational awareness that never diminished, all would serve her well in this new chapter. Some expertise remained sharp even when hidden, she reflected. Some patches were earned through fire, but wore most meaningfully when they helped prevent others from walking through the same flames. For 10 years, Olivia Blackwood had been cutting hair while her true capabilities remained invisible. Now, a select few would see what had been hiding in plain sight all along. Olivia Blackwood arrived at the Fort Carson Special Operations Training Facility at precisely 0600 hours, the same efficiency that characterized her salon work now directed toward a radically different purpose. 2 weeks had passed since her conversation with Colonel Mitchell, and today marked her first official day as a specialized instructor. She wore simple, tactical clothing, nothing that suggested rank or special status, but carried herself with the unmistakable confidence of someone who belonged in this environment. The facility sprawled across several acres of isolated training grounds, featuring long-distance ranges, tactical simulation buildings, and specialized equipment for precision shooters. Mitchell waited at the entrance to the administrative building, his expression revealing nothing as she approached. "Ms. Blackwood," he greeted her formally. "Everything is prepared according to your specifications." "Thank you, Colonel," Olivia replied, surveying the compound with practiced efficiency. "How many in the first group?" 8 operators. All experienced, all qualified at expert level or above. Different backgrounds. 4 Marines, 2 Army, 2 from other programs. Mitchell handed her a tablet with personnel files. They've been told they're receiving specialized training from a contractor with unique operational experience. Nothing about Ghost One or your specific background. Olivia nodded, appreciating the discretion. "Let's meet them." Inside the main briefing room, 8 men in tactical clothing stood as Mitchell and Olivia entered. Their expressions revealed professional curiosity about this unknown instructor, but no particular deference. That would change, Olivia knew, once they understood what she brought to their training. "Gentlemen," Mitchell began, "this is Ms. Blackwood. For the next 2 weeks, she'll be providing advanced instruction in precision shooting and tactical decision-making under non-standard conditions. Her operational background is classified, but I can tell you she's executed missions that redefine what's considered possible in your field. Listen, learn, and check your assumptions at the door." With that brief introduction, Mitchell departed, leaving Olivia alone with 8 skeptical-looking operators. She recognized the expressions immediately, the same look she'd encountered throughout her military career when male colleagues first learned they'd be working with a female sniper. "Let's start by understanding where you are now," Olivia said, her voice calm but carrying natural authority. "Range time. I want to see your current capabilities before we reshape them." At the 1,000-yard range, Olivia observed each shooter systematically. They were undeniably skilled, hitting targets consistently at distances most military personnel would consider exceptional. But she noted their reliance on ideal conditions, standard positions, and textbook techniques. Master Sergeant Wilson, a Marine with 15 years of experience, finished his sequence with impressive grouping. "Ma'am, permission to ask about the training objectives? We're all qualified experts already." Olivia studied him for a moment. "Sergeant, what's the longest confirmed shot you've made under combat conditions?" 780 yards, ma'am. Helmand Province, 2017. "Wind conditions?" "Minimal. Early morning. Under 5 knots. "Position?" "Standard prone with bipod support." Olivia nodded. "You're proficient under optimal conditions. This course isn't about that." She turned to address the entire group. "You're here because someone recognized that technical proficiency isn't enough when everything goes wrong, when standard positions aren't available, when environmental conditions exceed parameters in your manuals, when mission requirements demand what your training says is impossible." Quote, she picked up a rifle, not one of the standard issue weapons, but her personal M40A5 she'd brought for demonstration purposes. "Each of you qualified on courses designed to test your abilities within established parameters. I'm going to show you what's possible beyond those parameters." Without further explanation, Olivia moved to the firing position. Instead of taking the expected prone stance, she assumed an awkward, off-balance position that looked almost haphazard. The operators exchanged glances. clearly questioning her approach. "This is the only position available when you're on an unstable rooftop with partial cover and enemies in multiple directions," she explained, her voice steady despite the uncomfortable stance. "Standard positioning would expose you to hostile fire." She fired 5 rounds in rapid succession. When the target was retrieved, all 5 shots formed a tight group dead center, shooting better from an improvised position than most could achieve from textbook stance. The operator's expressions shifted from skepticism to cautious interest. "Again," Olivia said, assuming an even more unorthodox position. "This is what's available when your hide has been compromised and you're making final shots while preparing to evacuate. 5 more shots, 5 more perfect placements. Once more." She took a sitting position but with her support arm in an unusual configuration. "This is for when you've taken shrapnel in your left shoulder but still need to complete the mission." The results were the same: exceptional accuracy from a position that violated every principle they'd been taught. Sergeant Wilson's expression had transformed entirely. "How are you maintaining stability in those positions, ma'am?" "Micro-adjustments in muscle tension, breathing control synchronized with heartbeat, and weight distribution principles that aren't in any manual," Olivia replied. "I'll teach you each element individually, then how to integrate them. By the end of 2 weeks, you'll be able to shoot effectively from positions you currently consider impossible." Over the next 3 days, Olivia methodically deconstructed and rebuilt their understanding of precision shooting. She taught techniques developed through necessity in combat situations where textbook approaches would have failed. The operators, initially resistant to contradictions of their training, gradually recognized the value of what she offered. Not theoretical knowledge, but practical skills, proven in conditions where lives depended on success. On the 4th morning, Mitchell observed from a distance as Olivia worked with Captain Ramirez, an Army sniper struggling with unorthodox shooting positions. "The issue isn't your grip," she explained, adjusting his arm slightly. "It's tension distribution. You're fighting to maintain standard form instead of adapting to the available position." Mitchell approached as the session concluded. "Progress report?" "They're unlearning before they can learn," Olivia replied, "breaking dependency on ideal conditions before building capability in compromised ones." "And Ramirez?" "Most potential. He's struggling because he's the most technically proficient according to standard metrics. Has the most to unlearn." Mitchell nodded. "Your methods are unconventional, but I can already see improvement in their adaptability." "We haven't even started on the decision-making components," Olivia noted. "Technical skills are foundational, but the real difference comes in knowing when to apply which technique under pressure." That afternoon, Olivia introduced the next phase of training: scenario-based exercises that combined physical stress, tactical complexity, and technical challenges. She had designed situations that replicated conditions from her own operations, where standard approaches had proven insufficient. "Today we're simulating compromised equipment," she announced. "Each of you has a rifle with an intentional flaw. Some have scope alignment issues, others have trigger assembly problems. You won't know what's wrong until you're in position and engaging targets." Staff Sergeant Miller raised his hand. "Ma'am, standard protocol would be to abort the mission with compromised equipment." "And if abort isn't an option?" Olivia challenged. "If lives depend on your shot despite equipment failure, this isn't about what should happen in ideal circumstances. It's about succeeding when circumstances are far from ideal." The scenario unfolded with operators discovering mid-exercise that their equipment functioned unpredictably. Some adapted quickly, making necessary adjustments. Others became frustrated, their accuracy deteriorating as they fought against the limitations. Afterward, Olivia gathered them for debriefing. "Equipment failures aren't just technical problems. They're psychological tests. Your effectiveness isn't determined by ideal conditions, but by your ability to adapt when everything works against you." As days passed, the training intensified. Olivia introduced environmental challenges: shooting in simulated sandstorms using specialized facilities, operating with limited visibility, making calculations when standard reference points were unavailable. Each scenario drew directly from her operational experience, recreating conditions that had forced her to innovate beyond established protocols. By the end of the first week, the transformation in the operators was remarkable, not just in their technical proficiency from compromised positions, but in their approach to problem-solving. They were thinking differently, seeing limitations as parameters to work within rather than obstacles that prevented success. On Sunday evening, their scheduled day off, Olivia found Captain Ramirez still at the range, practicing techniques she'd taught earlier. "Problem, Captain?" she asked, approaching his position. Ramirez lowered his rifle. "Not with the training, ma'am. It's exceptional. I'm just trying to reconcile what you're teaching with what I've learned over 8 years of service." "Explain," Olivia prompted, recognizing a crucial learning moment. "Everything in our manuals, our doctrine, emphasizes standardized approaches. Perfect form, ideal conditions. Even our contingency training assumes certain minimums. But you're teaching us to operate in conditions our manuals say are impossible." Olivia nodded. "Because manuals are written based on what works for most people in most conditions. They establish baselines, not ceilings." "But how did you develop these techniques?" "They're not random. There's systematic thinking behind each one, but nothing like anything I've encountered in official training." The question approached dangerous territory regarding her classified background, but Olivia recognized the importance of providing context without specific details. "Necessity," she answered carefully. "When standard approaches fail but mission requirements remain, you either innovate or fail. I operated in environments where failure meant unacceptable consequences. So I adapted, developed alternatives, tested them under actual conditions rather than theoretical ones." Ramirez studied her with new understanding. "You're not just a contractor with specialized knowledge. You developed these techniques yourself, in combat." "The techniques matter more than their origin," Olivia deflected smoothly. "What's important is that they work when conventional approaches don't." "With respect, ma'am, the origin does matter," Ramirez countered. "Knowing these methods were developed under fire, proven when lives depended on them, that carries weight beyond theoretical training." Olivia considered his perspective. "Fair point, Captain. Yes, everything I'm teaching came from operational necessity. Developed, tested, and validated in conditions where failure wasn't an option." The second week of training shifted focus from technical skills to decision-making under pressure. Olivia created complex scenarios that forced operators to make rapid assessments with incomplete information, limited resources, and conflicting priorities. "Today's exercise," she explained on Monday morning, "involves a hostage rescue scenario with compromised intelligence. You'll receive contradictory information about target location, civilian presence, and extraction routes. You'll need to make decisions without clear right answers, where every choice carries significant risk." The simulation unfolded in the tactical training facility, with role players creating realistic complexity. As operators navigated the scenario, Olivia observed their decision processes rather than just outcomes. In the debriefing afterward, she focused on their thinking patterns rather than technical execution. "Sergeant Wilson, you hesitated when presented with conflicting intelligence about hostile presence. Walk me through your thought process." Wilson straightened. "Ma'am, the initial brief suggested 2 hostiles, but environmental indicators suggested more. Protocol says rely on latest intelligence, but my instinct said otherwise." "And your decision?" "Prepared for 5 hostiles based on environmental assessment rather than intelligence brief." "Which was correct," Olivia confirmed. "Intelligence reports are created by humans with limited perspectives. Environmental indicators, footprints, supply quantities, sleeping arrangements, often tell a more accurate story. You trusted observable evidence over received information. That's the kind of adaptive thinking that prevents catastrophic outcomes." Each day introduced new decision-making challenges, ethical dilemmas, resource allocation problems, risk assessment scenarios. Olivia pushed the operators to develop judgment that went beyond rulebooks and procedures, teaching them to synthesize information rapidly and trust their trained instincts. By Thursday, Colonel Mitchell's periodic observations had become more frequent. Other instructors occasionally appeared at the periphery of training areas, observing Olivia's unconventional methods and their evident effectiveness. Word spreading, Mitchell mentioned during a brief conversation between exercises. "Command is noticing the transformation in these operators. They're asking about expanding the program." Olivia maintained her focus on the current group. "Let's complete this course successfully before discussing expansion." "Agreed, but be prepared for increased interest. Results like these generate attention." The final day of training involved a comprehensive evaluation, a scenario combining all elements Olivia had taught over the 2 weeks. The operators, now functioning as a coordinated team, faced a simulated hostage extraction requiring precision shooting from compromised positions, adaptation to equipment failures, navigation through environmentally challenging conditions, and complex decision-making under extreme pressure. Olivia observed from the command center, monitoring their performance through tactical feeds. What she witnessed was remarkable. Operators applying her techniques seamlessly, adapting to unpredictable complications, making sound decisions when standard protocols provided no guidance. They've internalized the principles, Mitchell noted, standing beside her, not just mimicking techniques but understanding the underlying thinking. That was the goal, Olivia replied. Not to create dependence on specific methods, but to develop the ability to innovate when circumstances demand it. When the exercise concluded successfully, Olivia gathered the operators for a final debriefing. Their expressions showed the satisfaction of having mastered challenging skills and the respect earned through shared intensity. 2 weeks ago, she began, you arrived as technically proficient operators trained to excel under standard conditions. You're leaving with capabilities that extend far beyond those parameters. Not just technical skills, but adaptive thinking that works when everything else fails. Master Sergeant Wilson spoke for the group. Ma'am, I've been through dozens of specialized training programs in 15 years of service. None have transformed my understanding like these 2 weeks. The techniques you've taught us, they're not just improvements, they're paradigm shifts. Captain Ramirez added, these aren't theoretical skills, they're obviously battle-tested. They'll save lives in situations we previously considered unworkable. Olivia acknowledged their comments with a nod. Apply these principles judiciously. They're meant for situations where standard approaches are insufficient, not as replacements for established protocols that work under normal conditions. As the operators departed for their respective units, Mitchell approached Olivia with uncharacteristic informality. That was exceptional work. Every performance metric shows dramatic improvement, but the qualitative change is even more significant. They're thinking differently about operational challenges. That was the intent, Olivia replied, already packing her personal equipment. Tomorrow she would return to the salon, resuming her cover identity without explanation for her 2-week absence. We need to discuss next steps, Mitchell continued. Command wants to expand the program immediately, 3 more courses before year-end, potentially integration into standard advanced training afterward. Olivia considered the implications. Her agreement with Mitchell had been for a single training course, a limited re-engagement with her military expertise. Expansion meant greater commitment, increased visibility, and potential complications for her carefully constructed civilian life. I need time to consider the implications, she said finally. This was a significant departure from my normal routine. Mitchell nodded, understanding. Take whatever time you need. But know that what you've accomplished here matters. These operators will apply your teaching in situations where lives hang in the balance. Your knowledge, transmitted through them, will save people you'll never meet. That evening, as Olivia drove back to her home in Westridge, she reflected on the past 2 weeks. After 10 years of suppressing her true capabilities, of channeling her precision into hairstyling rather than marksmanship, she had reconnected with the identity that once defined her. The experience was both exhilarating and unsettling. At her house, Olivia performed her standard security check before entering, a habit unchanged despite the official recognition of her skills. Inside, she moved directly to the hidden room containing her rifle collection. Each weapon remained exactly as she'd left it, but her relationship to them had subtly transformed. They were no longer just maintenance projects or connections to a buried past. They had become teaching tools, their capabilities shared rather than concealed. Her phone rang. Diana from the salon. Liv, how was your vacation? We've missed you around here. Relaxing, Olivia replied. The cover story coming automatically needed the break. Well, your clients have been counting the days until you're back. Mrs. Patterson rescheduled twice rather than let anyone else touch her hair. The conversation continued with salon updates and client anecdotes, the ordinary details of a life Olivia had constructed with meticulous care. As she listened, she realized that this identity wasn't merely a cover. It had become genuinely part of who she was. The precision and focus she brought to hairstyling were authentic expressions of her character, just directed toward different outcomes. After ending the call, Olivia made tea and sat by her front window, considering Mitchell's proposal for expanded training. The past 2 weeks had confirmed that her skills remained sharp, her knowledge valuable. More importantly, sharing that knowledge had provided a sense of purpose that had been missing in her carefully constrained civilian life. The doorbell rang, interrupting her thoughts. Through the security camera, she recognized Captain Rhodes, the Marine who had first identified her at the salon. She opened the door with cautious curiosity. "Captain, unexpected visit." Rhodes stood respectfully on her porch, dressed in civilian clothes. "Ms. Blackwood, I apologize for the intrusion, but I wanted to speak with you before you made your decision about continuing the training program." Olivia's expression revealed nothing, but she gestured him inside. Security considerations had been addressed. Rhodes was already aware of her identity. "Colonel Mitchell mentioned you're considering your options," Rhodes continued once they were seated in her living room. "I thought my perspective might be relevant." "I'm listening," Olivia replied neutrally. "I've debriefed with the operators who completed your course. The transformation is remarkable, not just in technical proficiency, but in how they approach operational challenges. They're thinking differently about what's possible in field conditions." Quote, "That was the objective," Olivia acknowledged. "It's more than that," Rhodes pressed. "In 15 years of service, I've seen dozens of specialized training programs. Most produce incremental improvements at best. Yours is creating foundational changes in operational capability." Olivia remained silent, waiting for him to reach his point. "I understand your hesitation," Rhodes continued. "Maintaining separation between your civilian life and military expertise has been essential for your security and peace of mind. Expanding the program threatens that separation." "It does," Olivia agreed simply. "But there's something you should know about the Helmand Province operation, the one where you saved my team when all tactical options seemed exhausted." Olivia's attention sharpened. This was the mission Rhodes had referenced during their first encounter, the operation that had first connected them. 3 years after that extraction, one of my team members was in the right place at the right time to prevent a mass casualty event in a European capital. Intelligence he gathered, actions he took. They saved hundreds of lives. Another team member later led a rescue operation during natural disasters that saved dozens of civilians. A third developed training protocols that have improved survival rates for units operating in hostile environments. Rhodes leaned forward slightly. "None of that would have happened if you hadn't made impossible shots from impossible positions that day. The lives you saved went on to save others in expanding circles of impact that continue today." The information hit Olivia with unexpected force. The nature of her operations meant never knowing final outcomes, never receiving confirmation of success beyond the immediate tactical situation. Hearing about the extended consequences of her actions provided context she'd never had access to. "Why tell me this now?" she asked quietly. "Because the same principle applies to what you're doing with this training program," Rhodes replied. "The operators you've taught will apply those skills in situations where standard approaches would fail. They'll make shots that save lives, complete missions that protect others, pass on knowledge that expands your impact exponentially. It's not just about the 8 people you trained these past 2 weeks. It's about everyone they'll affect throughout their careers." Olivia absorbed this perspective silently. She had viewed the training program primarily through the lens of personal risk and professional satisfaction. Rhodes was highlighting a dimension she hadn't fully considered, the cascading impact of transmitted knowledge. "I appreciate the perspective, Captain," she said finally. "It's relevant to my decision." Rhodes stood to leave. "That's all I wanted to share. Whatever you decide, know that what you've already done matters significantly." After Rhodes departed, Olivia returned to her window, watching the street with the habitual vigilance of someone who had lived with secrets for years. The captain's words resonated with something she'd always understood intuitively but never articulated, that knowledge transmitted was more powerful than knowledge possessed. For 10 years, she had maintained her skills in isolation, preserving capabilities that had once saved lives but now served only personal satisfaction. The training program offered something different, the opportunity to multiply her impact through others who would carry her techniques into situations she would never face personally. The next morning, Olivia returned to the salon as scheduled. She moved through her appointments with the same precision and focus that had always characterized her work, transforming hairstyles with expert hands that concealed their alternate capabilities. "Welcome back, stranger," Diana greeted her warmly. "Clients have been asking for you constantly." "Good to be back," Olivia replied, and found she meant it. This environment, these relationships, this identity, they weren't merely cover, but genuine aspects of a life she had built with care. During her lunch break, Olivia stepped outside and called Colonel Mitchell. "I'll continue with the program," she said when he answered. "3 more courses this year, as proposed. But my conditions remain unchanged. My civilian life maintains priority, and my teaching methods remain under my control." "Understood and agreed," Mitchell replied without hesitation. "I'll make the necessary arrangements for the next course in 8 weeks. That evening, as Olivia maintained her rifles with the same care she applied to her salon tools, she reflected on the dual identity she was now deliberately embracing. For 10 years, she had been living a fraction of her potential, her exceptional abilities confined to private maintenance. Now, she had created a framework where both aspects of her capability could find expression: the precision hairstylist and the tactical innovator who trained elite operators. The decision carried risks, but also promised something she had lacked since leaving military service: meaningful impact beyond personal satisfaction. Her knowledge, transmitted through others, would save lives in situations where standard approaches proved insufficient. Some expertise remained valuable even when hidden, Olivia reflected, but its greatest potential was realized when shared with those who could apply it, when circumstances demanded the impossible. For 10 years, she had been cutting hair while her true capabilities remained invisible. Now a select few would see what had been hiding in plain sight and carry that knowledge into situations where it might mean the difference between failure and survival. As she closed the hidden room containing her rifle collection, Olivia felt a sense of integration she hadn't experienced since before her forced separation from service. Not a return to her former life, but the creation of something new, a balanced existence where her full range of capabilities could find appropriate expression. 18 months after her first training course, Olivia stood at the newly constructed observation deck, overlooking what military personnel now unofficially called Blackwood Complex, a dedicated facility for her expanded training program. What had begun as a cautious experiment using existing ranges had evolved into a specialized campus with custom-designed environments that simulated the impossible conditions her training addressed. "Impressive, isn't it?" Colonel Mitchell remarked, joining her at the railing. "From weekend sessions to this in less than 2 years." Olivia surveyed the complex thoughtfully. Multiple specialized ranges extended across the landscape, each designed to challenge conventional limitations. Environmental simulation chambers recreated extreme conditions from desert heat to Arctic cold. Urban training structures featured unconventional angles and compromised positions that standard facilities never incorporated. "It serves its purpose," she acknowledged. The expansion had been necessary, as demand for her training methodology exceeded all projections. 8 annual courses had quickly become 12, then 16, with waiting lists from special operations units worldwide. "The Joint Chiefs are visiting next week," Mitchell mentioned casually. "They want to observe a training session personally." Olivia raised an eyebrow. This level of high-ranking attention represented another escalation in the program's profile. "Is that necessary?" "Results make it necessary," Mitchell replied. "The operational impact has been documented extensively. Units with your training show 40% higher success rates in compromised conditions. Survival statistics in no-win scenarios have improved dramatically. The brass want to understand why." The statistics didn't surprise Olivia. Her techniques had been developed through necessity in precisely such conditions, when standard approaches failed but mission requirements remained. What surprised her was the institutional recognition of methodologies that fundamentally challenged established doctrine. "I'll conduct a standard session," she said after consideration. "No special demonstration, no theatrical elements. They should see exactly what every operator experiences." Mitchell nodded agreement. "Authenticity is what makes this program effective. Speaking of which, there's someone who'd like to meet you." He gestured toward the main building where a young woman in military uniform waited. As they approached, Olivia noted the lieutenant's insignia and the subtle indicators of special operations training in her bearing and awareness. "Ms. Blackwood, this is Lieutenant Sarah Connor, recently assigned to our integration team. She'll be helping implement your methodologies and standard training protocols." Connor extended her hand with professional respect. "It's an honor, ma'am. Your techniques have transformed how we approach compromised operations." Olivia assessed the young officer with practiced efficiency. "You've completed the course?" Yes, ma'am, 6 months ago. It fundamentally changed my operational perspective. Mitchell excused himself for another meeting, leaving Olivia with the lieutenant as they walked the facility perimeter. The colonel mentioned you're involved with integration, Olivia noted. How is that progressing? Connor's response revealed both enthusiasm and analytical thinking. Challenging, but promising. Standard training is deeply institutionalized. Changing fundamental approaches faces significant resistance. But operational results are persuasive. When units with your training consistently succeed where others fail, people notice. Quote, "The resistance is understandable," Olivia observed. "Established protocols exist for good reasons. They provide consistency and reliability in normal conditions." Exactly, Connor agreed. The key insight we're emphasizing is that your methods aren't replacements for standard training, but extensions beyond its limitations. They activate when conventional approaches reach their boundaries. The distinction was crucial to Olivia's training philosophy. She had never advocated abandoning established protocols that worked in their intended contexts, only developing alternatives for situations where those protocols proved insufficient. As they walked, Connor's professional demeanor briefly gave way to more personal curiosity. "Ma'am, if I may ask, how did you develop these techniques? They're systematically coherent, but unlike anything in conventional doctrine." The question approached classified territory, but Olivia had developed a standardized response that provided context without specific operational details. "Necessity," she answered. "When standard approaches fail but mission requirements remain, you either develop alternatives or fail. I operated in environments where failure carried unacceptable consequences, so adaptation became essential." Connor nodded thoughtfully. "The techniques have that quality. They feel field-developed rather than laboratory-designed. They account for human factors under stress in ways theoretical training often misses." "That's precisely their origin," Olivia confirmed. Each method was developed, tested, and refined under actual operational conditions, not theoretical scenarios. Their conversation was interrupted by Olivia's phone. The screen displayed Diana's number from the salon, unusual during working hours. She excused herself and answered. "Liv, I'm so sorry to bother you during your consulting work," Diana began, her voice strained. "But there's a situation at the salon I think you should know about." "What's happening?" Olivia asked, immediately alert. "3 men came asking for you, not clients. They were intense, military-looking but not in uniform. When I said you were away on business, they started asking very specific questions about your schedule, when you'd return, how long you'd been working here." Olivia's mind instantly calculated threat assessments. "What did you tell them?" "Nothing specific. Said you were a private person, and I didn't keep track of your personal schedule. They left a card and said they'd return tomorrow. Liv, they weren't normal customers. Something felt wrong." "You did exactly right," Olivia assured her. "Is the card numbered 7701? "Yes. How did you know?" "Government contractors I've worked with," Olivia improvised smoothly. "Nothing concerning, just poor communication between departments. I'll handle it." After ending the call, Olivia turned to find Mitchell had rejoined them, his expression revealing he had overheard enough to concern him. "Problem?" "Possibly," Olivia replied. 3 men identifying as government personnel visited my workplace asking questions about my schedule and history. Mitchell's expression hardened. "We maintain strict compartmentalization regarding your civilian identity. Only 5 people have access to that information, all with appropriate clearance and need to know." "Apparently that circle has widened," Olivia noted, her tone neutral but her mind processing security implications. "The identification number they left is associated with the Defense Intelligence Agency, not your command structure." Mitchell's surprise was evident. "DIA has no authorization to investigate this program or its personnel. I'll make inquiries immediately." "I'll handle it personally," Olivia stated. It wasn't a request but a declaration of intent. Mitchell studied her carefully before nodding. Understood. Resources available if needed. That evening, instead of returning to her hotel, Olivia drove directly to Westridge. The 4-hour journey gave her time to consider implications and options. Unauthorized interest in her civilian identity represented a potential security breach with significant consequences. Her carefully constructed life could unravel if her military background became public knowledge. She arrived at the salon after closing hours, using her key to enter through the back. Diana had waited, her concern evident as Olivia appeared. "Thank God you're here," she said, embracing Olivia with uncharacteristic emotion. Those men were intimidating, not threatening exactly, but intense. "I'm handling it," Olivia assured her. "Did they leave any other information besides the card?" "No, but one of them took pictures of the salon interior, including your station. Said it was for their files. Liv, what's going on? Does this have something to do with your consulting work?" The question pressed against boundaries Olivia had maintained for years. Diana had been her employer and friend for over a decade, without knowing anything about her military background or specialized capabilities. The compartmentalization had protected both of them, but circumstances were forcing reconsideration. "It's complicated," Olivia acknowledged. "My consulting work involves government contracts with security considerations. Sometimes administrative oversight gets overzealous." It wasn't the whole truth, but it was closer than any explanation she had previously offered. Diana studied her with the perceptiveness that had always made her an excellent salon manager. "There's more to it than that," she said quietly. "I've known you for 12 years, Liv. You're the most private person I've ever met. Skilled, reliable, completely professional, but always maintaining distance. These men weren't looking for a consultant. They were investigating you specifically." Olivia weighed her options carefully. Complete disclosure was impossible given classification constraints, but Diana deserved some context for the disruption to her business. "Before becoming a stylist, I worked in specialized government operations," Olivia explained, choosing words that conveyed truth without classified details. "My work occasionally intersected with sensitive matters. When I left that field, certain aspects of my background remained classified. My current consulting relates to that previous expertise." Diana absorbed this information thoughtfully. "That explains a lot, actually. The way you're always aware of everything happening around you. How you handle tools with that unusual precision, the mysterious trips that you never discuss." "I've always kept these aspects of my life separate for good reasons," Olivia continued. "It protects both my privacy and your business from unnecessary complications." "Like men in suits asking intrusive questions," Diana noted with unexpected humor. "I get it, Liv. Your secrets are yours to keep. Just tell me if my salon is in any danger." "No danger," Olivia assured her. "This is administrative overreach, not operational concern. I'll resolve it quickly." After Diana departed, Olivia conducted a thorough security assessment of the salon. No surveillance devices had been planted, but the photographs taken created vulnerability, documentation of her workplace that could lead to expanded investigation of her civilian life. She spent the night at her house, maintaining heightened security awareness. The unexpected interest from DIA suggested information compartmentalization had been compromised. Someone outside Mitchell's authorized circle had connected Ghost One with Olivia Blackwood, hairstylist. The following morning she arrived at the salon early, preparing for the promised return of the DIA personnel. They appeared precisely at 10 a.m., 3 men in business attire who moved with the distinctive efficiency of field operators rather than administrative staff. "Ms. Blackwood," the lead agent greeted her as he approached her station. "Thomas Mercer, Defense Intelligence Agency. We'd like to speak with you privately." Olivia assessed them with practiced efficiency. All 3 carried concealed weapons and wore communications devices. Their positioning suggested tactical training. They had automatically established triangulation coverage of the room. "I'm with clients all day," she replied, continuing to organize her station. "Any questions can be addressed to Colonel Mitchell at Fort Carson. He manages my consulting contract." Mercer's expression revealed momentary surprise at her direct reference to Mitchell. "Our inquiry doesn't concern your current consulting work, Ms. Blackwood. It relates to your previous operational history." The statement confirmed Olivia's suspicion that her identity compartmentalization had been compromised. Someone had connected Olivia Blackwood to Ghost One despite the classified barriers designed to prevent precisely this scenario. "My previous work history is properly documented through appropriate channels," she replied evenly. "If you have questions about it, they should be directed through those same channels." "Ma'am," Mercer persisted, lowering his voice, "we're investigating Operation Shadowcast 2013. Your expertise is particularly relevant to our inquiry." The operation name hit Olivia like physical impact, though her expression revealed nothing. Shadowcast had been her last mission before Kandahar, a highly classified operation that had gone catastrophically wrong when intelligence proved faulty. The aftermath had included classified hearings and redacted reports, but no public acknowledgement. "I have clients arriving in 15 minutes, Olivia stated, her voice calm but with unmistakable firmness. If DIA has questions about classified operations, proper protocols exist for such inquiries. This isn't one of them." Mercer studied her with newfound respect. "We have authorization from the director himself." "This isn't a fishing expedition, Ms. Blackwood. Lives are at stake." The invocation of operational urgency was familiar manipulation, a technique used to bypass security protocols when administrative patience ran thin. Olivia had employed it herself during her active service when bureaucracy threatened mission effectiveness. "Then the director can contact Colonel Mitchell directly," she replied, maintaining professional detachment. "My civilian workplace isn't an appropriate venue for such discussions." Before Mercer could respond, the salon door opened. Captain Rhodes entered, dressed in civilian clothes but with unmistakable military bearing. His appearance was no coincidence. Mitchell had clearly mobilized resources. "Ms. Blackwood," Rhodes greeted her with casual familiarity. "Sorry I'm late for my appointment." The DIA agents recognized the intervention for what it was. Mercer exchanged a look with his colleagues before returning his attention to Olivia. "We'll continue this conversation through appropriate channels," he conceded. "But this matter has operational urgency. Sooner is better than later." After they departed, Rhodes approached Olivia's station. "Colonel Mitchell sent me when he couldn't reach you directly. Said there might be a situation requiring assistance." "Good timing," Olivia acknowledged. They referenced Operation Shadowcast, highly classified, limited access. DIA shouldn't have knowledge of my connection to it. Rhodes's expression revealed concern. "Security breach. Or authorized disclosure for specific purpose," Olivia noted. "Either way, it represents expansion beyond established parameters. Mitchell is making inquiries at senior levels. He'll contact you securely when he has information." The remainder of Olivia's day proceeded with superficial normality. She maintained her schedule of appointments, transforming hairstyles with her characteristic precision while her mind processed security implications and contingency plans. Diana approached during a brief break. "Everything okay? Those men didn't stay long." "Administrative misunderstanding," Olivia replied with practiced casualness. "All resolved." That evening, as Olivia returned home, she found Mitchell waiting in an unmarked vehicle near her house. He joined her inside after she completed her standard security check. "I've confirmed the DIA inquiry is officially sanctioned," he began without preamble. "Director-level authorization. Compartmentalized even within their own agency. They're investigating resurgent elements connected to Operation Shadowcast." Olivia absorbed this information with professional detachment. Shadowcast was conclusively terminated. All principals were either eliminated or imprisoned. "Apparently not," Mitchell countered. "Intelligence indicates reorganization under new leadership. The original operational files remain classified beyond my access, but DIA believes you possess critical knowledge about aspects that weren't documented officially." The implications were significant. Shadowcast had targeted a nascent terrorist network with unique operational methodology and distinctive organizational structure. The intelligence failure that compromised the operation had resulted from underestimating this structure's resilience. If elements had indeed survived and reorganized, they represented a sophisticated threat with proven adaptive capability. "Why approach me directly?" Olivia questioned. "Proper channels exist for interagency consultation." "Time constraints," Mitchell suggested. "And possibly knowledge specifically connected to you rather than documented intelligence. Your operational perspective was unique given your role in Shadowcast." Olivia considered the situation carefully. Her consulting agreement with Mitchell's command had specific boundaries: training and occasional operational consultation, but not direct engagement with other agencies or active investigations. "What's your assessment?" she asked finally. "The approach was procedurally incorrect but likely legitimate in purpose," Mitchell replied. "DIA wouldn't risk exposing your identity without significant operational justification. They need your specific knowledge regarding Shadowcast, not general consultation." The analysis aligned with Olivia's own assessment. The compromise of her civilian identity represented serious risk to her carefully constructed life, but the reference to Shadowcast suggested genuine operational necessity rather than administrative overreach. "I'll meet with them," she decided, "but under controlled conditions. your facility, your security protocols, limited disclosure of my background. Mitchell nodded agreement. I'll make arrangements immediately. The following morning, Olivia canceled her salon appointments for 3 days, citing a family emergency. Diana accepted the explanation without question, though her expression suggested growing awareness that Olivia's consulting work involved complexities beyond normal business. At Fort Carson, Olivia met with the DIA team in a secure briefing room. Mitchell had established explicit parameters. The meeting was officially a specialized consultation, not an investigation. Olivia's background would be referenced only as necessary for operational context, with no documentation connecting her civilian identity to classified operations. Thank you for agreeing to this consultation, Ms. Blackwood, Mercer began once security protocols were established. We apologize for the unconventional approach at your workplace. Operational urgency necessitated direct contact. Understood, Olivia replied professionally. Colonel Mitchell indicates you're investigating resurgent elements from Operation Shadowcast. Mercer activated a secure terminal, displaying intelligence materials with the highest classification markings. 3 months ago, we identified communication patterns matching the distinctive encryption methodology used by the Shadowcast target network. Analysis confirmed authenticity with 97% certainty. The information was concerning. The network had employed unique encryption that had been considered their operational signature. Its reappearance suggested either surviving elements or knowledge transfer to new operators. Subsequent intelligence has identified 3 key figures associated with the resurgent network, Mercer continued, displaying surveillance photographs. None match identified principals from the original operation. Olivia studied the images with practiced analytical detachment. New leadership, same methodology. Not surprising given the network's cellular structure. Each cell possessed operational knowledge but limited organizational visibility. Elimination of primary leadership wouldn't necessarily eliminate methodology. Exactly, Mercer confirmed, which is why your perspective is crucial. As the reconnaissance specialist who identified the network's distinctive pattern recognition procedures, you understand operational aspects that weren't fully documented in official reports. The reference to her specific role in Shadowcast confirmed that DIA had accessed highly classified information about her operational history. Whether through authorized channels or security breach remained unclear, but the knowledge itself was accurate. For the next 3 hours, Olivia provided detailed consultation on the network's operational methodology, distinctive organizational structure, and unique security protocols. She identified potential vulnerabilities, likely evolution patterns, and specialized tracking approaches that standard intelligence methods might overlook. The key insight from Shadowcast, she explained, indicating a particular communication pattern, was recognizing that conventional network analysis misinterpreted their structure. It appeared hierarchical but actually operated through distributed consensus with specialized functional cells. Targeting leadership proved ineffective because operational capability resided throughout the structure. Mercer absorbed this perspective with evident interest. This aligns with our current observations. Conventional approaches are identifying components but missing fundamental operational patterns. By session's end, Olivia had provided comprehensive consultation on the network's methodology without revealing classified details of specific operations. Her unique perspective had filled critical gaps in DIA's understanding, potentially enabling more effective response to the resurgent threat. Your insights are invaluable, Ms. Blackwood, Mercer acknowledged as they concluded. They provide context that wasn't available through documented intelligence alone. I trust this consultation resolves your immediate requirements, Olivia noted, her tone professional but with clear boundary setting. It does, Mercer confirmed, though we may request follow-up as the investigation progresses. Through appropriate channels, Mitchell interjected firmly. Any further consultation will be arranged through my office with established security protocols. After the DIA team departed, Mitchell turned to Olivia with uncharacteristic concern. This represents significant expansion beyond our original agreement. Your identity compartmentalization has been compromised at senior levels. It was always a calculated risk, Olivia acknowledged. The more effective the training program became, the more attention it would attract. Attention inevitably leads to investigation of origins. We can implement additional security measures, Mitchell offered, restricted access protocols, enhanced identity firewalls. Olivia considered the situation realistically. Administrative barriers have limited effectiveness against determined inquiry, The more significant question is whether the operational value justifies the increased exposure. The consultation had demonstrated that her specialized knowledge remained relevant to current threats. The network she had helped identify years earlier had resurfaced, potentially threatening lives if not effectively countered. Her insights could make meaningful difference in addressing that threat. "I believe it does," Mitchell stated. "Your training program has demonstrably saved lives by preparing operators for conditions beyond conventional parameters. This consultation may save more by enabling effective response to a sophisticated threat." The assessment aligned with Olivia's own thinking. The careful boundaries she had maintained between her civilian and military identities had served important purposes, protecting her privacy, enabling psychological separation, establishing sustainable balance. But those boundaries were not absolute values in themselves. They were means to enable effective life integration. "I'll continue both the training program and targeted consultation," she decided, "but with adjusted security protocols and explicit limitations. My primary identity remains civilian, my primary work remains at the salon, military engagement remains secondary and carefully managed." Mitchell nodded agreement. "I'll implement appropriate measures immediately." 2 days later, Olivia returned to the salon, resuming her civilian routine with practiced ease. Diana welcomed her back with evident relief. "Everything okay with your family emergency?" she asked as Olivia prepared her station. "Resolved," Olivia replied with the simple efficiency that characterized her communications. "Thank you for managing the schedule changes." As she moved through her appointments, transforming appearances with precise attention to structure and detail, Olivia reflected on the evolving integration of her dual identities. What had begun as rigid compartmentalization had gradually transformed into more fluid interaction between her civilian life and military expertise. The DIA consultation represented another evolution in this integration, applying specialized knowledge developed through classified operations to current threats while maintaining appropriate boundaries. The balance required continuous adjustment, but served important purpose beyond personal preference. That evening, as Olivia maintained her rifle collection with characteristic precision, her phone rang with Mitchell's secure line. "Thought you'd want to know," he began without preamble. "DIA implemented your analytical framework regarding the Shadowcast network. They've already identified 3 previously undetected cells and established monitoring protocols based on your pattern recognition insights." The information provided meaningful validation of her consultation's impact. "Good to hear." "There's more," Mitchell continued. "The Joint Chiefs have reviewed your training program comprehensively. They've authorized establishment of what they're calling the Advanced Adaptive Operations Initiative, systematic integration of your methodologies throughout special operations training." The development represented institutional acknowledgement beyond anything Olivia had anticipated when she first agreed to Mitchell's cautious proposal. Her techniques, developed through necessity in classified operations, were becoming formalized doctrine that would influence military capability for years to come. "Lieutenant Connor will serve as integration lead," Mitchell added, "with your continued consultation on methodology and application. The program maintains all established security protocols regarding your identity and civilian status." After ending the call, Olivia continued her maintenance ritual, applying the same focused precision to her rifles that she brought to hairstyling and operational consultation. The seemingly disparate activities shared fundamental principles: attention to structure, understanding of relationships, precise execution of technique. For years, she had viewed her civilian and military identities as separate domains requiring rigid boundaries. Experience had gradually revealed a different perspective: not separate identities, but integrated expression of consistent capabilities applied in different contexts. The following week brought another evolution in this integration. As Olivia completed her final appointment of the day, Diana approached with unusual seriousness. "Liv, there's something I need to discuss with you privately." Once the salon closed, Diana produced a folder containing newspaper clippings, printouts, and notes. "After those government men visited, I did some research. I know you value your privacy, but their questions made me concerned about potential problems for the salon." Quote, Olivia maintained neutral expression while mentally assessing security implications. "What did you find?" "Nothing specific about you," Diana clarified quickly, "but I found information about a specialized military training program that matched the timing of your, quote, consulting trips. Articles about unconventional techniques being taught by an unnamed specialist with unique operational background. The connection wasn't definitive, but demonstrated insightful analysis from someone who had observed Olivia closely for years. Diana had identified correlations between Olivia's absences and program activities without accessing classified information. The articles described this specialist as someone who developed techniques that work when standard approaches fail, Diana continued. Someone who teaches from practical experience rather than theoretical knowledge. She paused, studying Olivia carefully. I'm not asking you to confirm anything that you can't discuss. I just want you to know that whatever your consulting work involves, I support it completely. The salon will always accommodate your schedule, no questions asked. The offer represented understanding beyond what Olivia had expected, recognition of the importance of her other work without demanding details she couldn't provide. It demonstrated trust developed through years of professional reliability and personal respect. Thank you, Olivia replied, the simple acknowledgement carrying significant meaning. That flexibility is valuable. Diana smiled with uncharacteristic emotion. Whatever you're doing on those trips, it matters. That's all I need to know. The conversation marked another step in the evolving integration of Olivia's dual life, not through abandoning necessary security compartmentalization, but through finding appropriate connections between her separate domains. 3 weeks later, Olivia stood before her most challenging training class yet, a specialized course for instructors who would implement her methodologies in their own units. The force multiplication effect would extend her impact far beyond direct training, creating exponential transmission of techniques developed through her unique operational experience. Standard training establishes what's possible under ideal conditions, she explained to the assembled instructors. Your challenge is teaching operators to succeed when nothing is ideal, when weather, position, equipment, and time all work against them. Quote. As she guided them through the methodology she had refined over 2 years of instruction, Olivia reflected on the extraordinary journey from isolated maintenance of suppressed skills to international dissemination of life-saving techniques. What had begun with a Marine recognizing her distinctive movements had evolved into systematic integration of her specialized knowledge throughout military operations. Yet her daily life remained anchored in the salon, her relationships with clients and colleagues largely unchanged. The integration wasn't about abandoning either identity, but about finding appropriate expression for her full range of capabilities. Excellence applied in different contexts, but flowing from the same source. Some expertise remained valuable even when hidden, Olivia reflected, but its greatest potential was realized when transmitted to others who could apply it in circumstances where conventional approaches proved insufficient. For 12 years, she had been cutting hair while her extraordinary capabilities remained invisible. Now those capabilities were serving their highest purpose, creating options where none existed, solutions where only obstacles appeared, and hope where conventional assessment saw only impossibility. 3 years after her first training course, Olivia sat in an unfamiliar position, not behind a sniper rifle or salon chair, but at a conference table inside the Pentagon. The small group assembled included General Richardson, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, alongside representatives from each military branch and several intelligence agencies. The unprecedented gathering reflected the remarkable evolution of what had begun as a cautious experiment. Ms. Blackwood, General Richardson began after security protocols were complete. Thank you for agreeing to this briefing. I've reviewed the comprehensive assessment of your Advanced Adaptive Operations Initiative. The results are frankly extraordinary. A senior intelligence analyst activated the presentation screen, displaying statistical analyses and operational outcomes. Over the past 3 years, units with AAO training have demonstrated 67% higher success rates in compromised conditions compared to control groups. Survival statistics in scenarios previously classified as non-survivable show improvement exceeding all projections. Quote, the data confirmed what operational reports had already established. Olivia's methodologies had transformed capabilities throughout special operations communities, creating options where standard approaches saw only limitations. More significant than the statistics, the analyst continued, are the qualitative changes in operational thinking. Commanders report fundamental shifts in how operators assess and respond to compromised conditions. They're developing solutions that wouldn't emerge from conventional training paradigms. General Richardson turned to Olivia directly. The purpose of today's meeting goes beyond assessment. Based on demonstrated impact, we're proposing formalization and expansion of your methodologies throughout all special operations training, not as supplemental instruction but as core doctrine. The proposal represented institutional recognition beyond anything Olivia had anticipated when she first agreed to Mitchell's proposal. Her techniques, developed through necessity in classified operations, would become systematized knowledge influencing military capability for generations. The expansion would include dedicated facilities at major training centers, Richardson continued, specialized instructor certification programs, and comprehensive integration into standard qualifications, all while maintaining established security protocols regarding your identity and civilian status. Olivia considered the implications carefully. Formalization offered broader impact but risked bureaucratic dilution of methodologies that derived their effectiveness from practical application rather than theoretical structure. Institutional integration presents challenges, she noted. These techniques weren't developed through conventional processes. They evolved through operational necessity and direct field testing. Standard training paradigms might unintentionally undermine their effectiveness. The general nodded understanding. Precisely why we need your direct involvement in the integration process. Not just your techniques, but your approach to developing and transmitting them. For the next 2 hours, Olivia engaged in detailed discussion of implementation strategies, instructor qualification requirements, and assessment methodologies. Throughout, she emphasized practical application over theoretical understanding, adaptive thinking over procedural compliance. The fundamental principle isn't specific techniques, she explained, but the ability to develop appropriate techniques when standard approaches fail. You're not teaching operators what to do in specific scenarios. You're developing their capability to create solutions in unanticipated ones. As the meeting concluded, General Richardson addressed Olivia directly. Ms. Blackwood, what you've contributed extends beyond tactical innovation. You've created a framework for adaptive excellence that transcends specific operational contexts. The implications are profound, not just for military operations, but for our entire approach to preparing for uncertain futures. The assessment captured something Olivia had recognized intuitively, but never articulated formally, that the principles underlying her methodologies applied far beyond specific tactical situations. They represented a fundamentally different approach to excellence under uncertainty, applicable wherever standard solutions proved insufficient. As she departed the Pentagon, Olivia found Colonel Mitchell waiting beside her vehicle. Now a brigadier general following promotion 6 months earlier, he had remained the primary interface between her civilian identity and military engagement. "Productive meeting?" he inquired as they walked toward the parking area. "Substantial expansion proposed," Olivia replied. "Institutional integration of AAO methodologies throughout special operations training." Mitchell nodded. "Expected outcome given the documented impact. Any concerns from your perspective?" "Bureaucratic dilution," Olivia acknowledged. These techniques derive their effectiveness from practical application, not theoretical structure. Institutional formalization risks undermining that essential quality. "Which is why your continued involvement remains crucial," Mitchell noted, "not just in developing techniques but in shaping how they're transmitted." As Olivia drove back toward Westridge, she reflected on the extraordinary evolution of the past 3 years. What had begun as cautious sharing of specialized knowledge with select operators had expanded into systematic influence throughout military training philosophy. Her methodologies, developed through necessity in classified operations, were becoming formalized doctrine that would shape capabilities long after her direct involvement ended. Yet her daily life maintained its civilian anchor. 4 days each week, she transformed hairstyles with the same precision and focus she brought to military instruction. Her salon clients remained largely unaware of her alternate expertise, though Diana had developed intuitive understanding of the importance of Olivia's, quote, consulting work without demanding details she couldn't provide. The journey had transformed Olivia's understanding of identity integration. What began as rigid compartmentalization had evolved into fluid interaction between seemingly disparate domains. Not separate identities, but consistent capabilities expressed appropriately in different contexts. The following morning, as Olivia prepared for her salon shift, her secure phone chimed with an urgent alert from Mitchell. The message was brief but consequential. Operation Shadowcast situation developing. Critical consultation requested immediately. The reference to Shadowcast triggered immediate concern. 6 months had passed since her initial consultation with DIA regarding the resurgent network. That engagement had provided analytical framework that identified previously undetected cells, but apparently the situation had evolved toward operational urgency. Olivia contacted Diana, requesting emergency schedule adjustment. The salon owner's response reflected their evolved understanding. Take whatever time you need. Some things matter more than haircuts. Within 4 hours, Olivia arrived at a secure facility outside Washington, D.C., where Mitchell waited alongside the DIA team she had previously consulted with. "Thank you for responding so quickly," Mercer began once security protocols were established. "We have a time-sensitive situation requiring your specific expertise." He activated a secure terminal displaying intelligence materials with the highest classification markings. 3 weeks ago, we identified accelerated activity within the Shadowcast network. Communication frequency increased 300%. Resource movements suggested operational preparation, and cell coordination indicated imminent action. The intelligence matched activation patterns Olivia had observed during her original engagement with the network, distinctive preparations that preceded significant operations. 2 days ago, we intercepted fragmented communications suggesting a high-value target opportunity in the Washington metropolitan area, Mercer continued. Analysis indicates potential mass casualty operation within the next 72 hours. Quote, "The timeline created urgent operational necessity. Prevention required rapid identification of specific targeting indicators, attack methodology, and network vulnerabilities, precisely the aspects Olivia had specialized in during her original Shadowcast involvement." "What specific consultation are you requesting?" she asked, her focus entirely professional. "Pattern recognition," Mercer replied. "You identified distinctive pre-operational signatures during the original Shadowcast engagement. We need your assessment of current intelligence to determine likely targeting methodology and timing." For the next 6 hours, Olivia worked with the intelligence team, applying her specialized understanding of the network's operational patterns to current data. She identified subtle indicators that conventional analysis had overlooked, potential vulnerabilities in preparation sequences, and distinctive methodological signatures that narrowed potential targeting scenarios. "These communication patterns suggest infrastructure targeting rather than population concentration," she explained, highlighting specific indicators. "The resource allocation doesn't align with mass casualty methodology but does match critical system disruption." Her analysis gradually narrowed potential targets from dozens to 3 high-probability scenarios, each involving critical infrastructure with cascading impact potential. The assessment provided focus for prevention resources that would otherwise have been distributed across too many possibilities. "This gives us actionable intelligence," Mercer acknowledged as they concluded. "Focused prevention measures can be implemented immediately, while additional confirmation is developed." Mitchell, who had observed the consultation silently, approached as the DIA team mobilized to implement Olivia's analytical framework. "Your contribution may have just prevented a significant attack. The pattern recognition you've provided creates prevention options that wouldn't exist otherwise." The observation reflected something Olivia had recognized throughout her military career, that sometimes the most significant contribution wasn't direct action but specialized knowledge that enabled others to act effectively. Her understanding of the network's operational methodology, developed through classified engagement years earlier, was creating prevention capabilities in a current threat situation. 3 days later, Mitchell contacted Olivia with confirmation. "DIA implemented your analytical framework regarding infrastructure targeting. They identified a cell in final preparation stages for an attack on regional power distribution systems. All principles apprehended, attack prevented, no casualties." The outcome validated both her analytical assessment and the operational value of her specialized knowledge. Lives had been protected not through direct action but through transmission of understanding developed through her unique operational experience. As Olivia resumed her salon schedule the following day, transforming appearances with practiced precision, she reflected on the multiple expressions of her capabilities. The same analytical thinking that identified attack methodologies also recognized structural relationships in styling. The same pattern recognition that detected threat indicators also perceived subtle distinctions in color application. Different contexts, consistent capabilities. 2 weeks later, Olivia's dual life intersected in unexpected fashion. As she completed a complex color treatment for a long-term client, The salon door opened to admit a striking woman in her early 60s, impeccably dressed with the unmistakable bearing of someone accustomed to command. Diana approached the visitor with professional welcome. "Good afternoon. Do you have an appointment?" "No," the woman replied with polite authority. "I'm here to see Ms. Blackwood specifically. Patricia Hayes, Deputy Director of National Intelligence." The introduction caused momentary stillness throughout the salon. Government officials at that level didn't typically visit suburban hair salons without significant purpose. Diana glanced toward Olivia with unspoken question. Olivia maintained professional composure while completing her client's service. "I'll be available in approximately 20 minutes, Director Hayes. Feel free to wait or return at that time." Hayes chose to wait, observing the salon operations with evident interest. When Olivia's client departed, she approached the styling station directly. "Ms. Blackwood, I apologize for the unannounced visit to your workplace. Circumstances necessitate direct communication outside standard channels." Olivia led Hayes to the salon's small consultation room, which offered relative privacy for client discussions. "How can I help you, Director?" Quote, "First, I want to personally thank you for the Shadowcast consultation," Hayes began. "Your analytical framework prevented a significant attack and has led to identification of 3 additional cells. Lives were protected through your specific expertise." The acknowledgement from someone at Hayes' level represented unprecedented recognition of Olivia's consultation impact. As Deputy Director of National Intelligence, Hayes oversaw coordination between 16 intelligence agencies and reported directly to the President on critical security matters. "I'm glad the consultation proved valuable," Olivia replied with professional detachment. "It demonstrated something more significant than specific case value," Hayes continued. "It highlighted a critical gap in our intelligence capabilities. The ability to recognize unconventional patterns and develop adaptive analytical frameworks when standard methodologies prove insufficient." The assessment paralleled what military leadership had recognized about Olivia's training program, that her value extended beyond specific techniques to fundamental approaches that worked when conventional methods reached their limitations. "I've reviewed your Advanced Adaptive Operations Initiative," Hayes added. "The methodologies you've developed have transformed military capability in compromised conditions. The intelligence community needs similar transformation in analytical capabilities." The direction of the conversation became clear. Hayes was proposing expansion of Olivia's engagement beyond military training and targeted consultation into systematic influence on intelligence methodologies. "I'm proposing establishment of what we're calling the Adaptive Intelligence Initiative," Hayes explained. "A specialized program developing analytical capabilities that function when standard frameworks prove insufficient. Your methodologies would form the foundation, adapted for intelligence contexts rather than tactical operations." The proposal represented another evolution in the impact of Olivia's specialized knowledge, from direct application in classified operations to transmission through military training to systematic influence on intelligence capabilities. Each expansion multiplied the effect of her unique experience beyond what direct action could achieve. "The program would operate under the same security protocols established for your military engagement," Hayes continued. "Your civilian identity remains protected, your salon work maintains priority, your participation occurs on terms you determine." Olivia considered the proposal carefully. Her consultation on Shadowcast had demonstrated that her analytical frameworks retained operational value years after their development. The proposed initiative would systematize that value, creating capabilities that extended beyond her direct involvement. "I need time to consider the implications," she said finally. Hayes nodded understanding. "Of course. This represents significant expansion of your government engagement. Consider as long as necessary. Though I should note that the Shadowcast situation demonstrates the potential impact of your participation." After Hayes departed, Diana approached with poorly concealed curiosity. "Everything okay? Not every day the Deputy Director of National Intelligence visits a hair salon." "Consulting opportunity," Olivia explained with the simplified truth she now shared with Diana. "Extension of existing government work." Diana studied her thoughtfully. "Must be important work if people at that level are personally recruiting you." "It serves purpose," Olivia acknowledged simply. That evening, as Olivia maintained her rifle collection with characteristic precision, she considered Hayes' proposal alongside her existing commitments. The military training program had expanded beyond her direct instruction to systematic integration throughout special operations training. The proposed intelligence initiative would create similar expansion in analytical capabilities. Each evolution represented multiplied impact of her specialized knowledge, transmission that extended far beyond what direct application could achieve. Not replacement of conventional approaches, but extension beyond their limitations, creating capabilities that functioned when standard methodologies proved insufficient. The following week brought another dimension to this expanding impact. Lieutenant Connor, now Major Connor following promotion, visited Olivia at Fort Carson during a training evaluation. The integration program has achieved full implementation at 8 major training centers, Connor reported. Instructor certification protocols are established and functioning effectively. Operational feedback confirms consistent transmission of core methodologies. Quote, "The update demonstrated successful institutionalization while maintaining the practical effectiveness that made Olivia's techniques valuable. Connor had proven exceptionally skilled at translating unconventional methodologies into transmissible form without sacrificing their essential qualities. There's something else you should know," Connor added. "We're receiving inquiries from non-military organizations facing similar challenges: emergency response agencies, disaster management teams, critical infrastructure protection units. They're recognizing that your methodologies apply wherever standard approaches reach their limitations." The observation highlighted something Olivia had recognized intuitively but never formally articulated, that the principles underlying her techniques transcended specific tactical applications. They represented fundamental approaches to functioning effectively when established protocols proved insufficient, applicable across diverse domains. "We've developed adaptation frameworks for these non-military applications," Connor continued, "modified methodologies that maintain core principles while addressing domain-specific requirements. The expansion potential is substantial." The evolution represented another multiplication of impact, from military operations to intelligence capabilities to civilian emergency response. Each adaptation extended the influence of Olivia's specialized knowledge into domains she would never directly engage with, creating capabilities that could save lives in crisis situations far removed from her original operational context. 2 days later, Olivia contacted Hayes regarding the proposed intelligence initiative. "I'll participate in program development with specific conditions. My civilian identity remains primary and protected. Participation occurs on limited schedule that accommodates existing commitments. Methodological integrity takes precedence over institutional convenience." "Agreed on all counts," Hayes replied without hesitation. "Your terms are entirely reasonable, given the value you bring to the initiative." Over the following 6 months, Olivia worked with selected intelligence analysts, developing specialized frameworks for pattern recognition, adaptive assessment, and unconventional analysis. She taught techniques for identifying significant indicators when standard methodologies focused elsewhere, recognizing operational preparations that didn't match established profiles, and developing effective responses when conventional options proved insufficient. Throughout this expansion, Olivia maintained her salon schedule with characteristic reliability. 4 days each week, she transformed appearances with the same precision and focus she brought to specialized instruction. Her clients remained largely unaware of her alternate expertise, experiencing only the exceptional results of her consistent capabilities. The dual expression created remarkable balance rather than conflict, each domain providing distinctive satisfaction while drawing on consistent strengths. The precision that guided a perfect haircut also informed analytical frameworks that identified threat patterns. The attention to structural relationships that shaped flattering styles also recognized operational methodologies that conventional assessment missed. 1 year after Hayes' initial proposal, Olivia attended a classified briefing on the Adaptive Intelligence Initiative's preliminary outcomes. The small group assembled included senior representatives from multiple intelligence agencies, alongside Hayes and Mitchell. "The implementation results have exceeded all projections," the program director reported. "Analytical teams with AII training have identified threat indicators that standard methodologies consistently missed. Prevention capabilities have improved dramatically in scenarios involving unconventional methodologies." The statistical assessment was impressive, but the operational examples proved more compelling. In 3 documented cases, AI-trained analysts had identified threat preparations that conventional frameworks overlooked, enabling prevention of significant attacks. In 5 others, they had recognized critical intelligence among data that standard assessment deemed irrelevant. More significant than specific cases, Hayes observed, is the fundamental shift in analytical thinking. These analysts aren't just applying new techniques, they're approaching problems differently. They're recognizing patterns and developing solutions that wouldn't emerge from conventional training paradigms. Quote, "The assessment paralleled what military leadership had observed about operators with advanced adaptive operations training. Not just improved tactical capabilities, but transformed operational thinking that created options where standard approaches saw only limitations." "You've created something remarkable, Ms. Blackwood," Hayes concluded. "Not just specific methodologies, but frameworks for excellence under uncertainty that transcend particular applications. The impact extends far beyond direct training to systematic capabilities that will continue evolving long after your involvement ends." As Olivia departed the briefing, Mitchell joined her briefly. "Quite the journey from that first cautious training course," he observed. "Did you anticipate this level of expansion when we began?" "No," Olivia acknowledged honestly. "I expected limited transmission of specific techniques to select operators. The systematic impact wasn't foreseeable." "That's the nature of truly significant innovation," Mitchell noted. "It transcends its origins, creating possibilities beyond initial conception. What began as specialized knowledge has become transformative methodology, applicable across diverse domains." The observation captured something essential about the evolution of the past 4 years. What had started as cautious sharing of techniques developed through classified operations had expanded into systematic influence on military training, intelligence capabilities, and emergency response. Each evolution multiplied impact beyond what direct application could achieve. 2 weeks later, as Olivia completed her salon shift, Diana approached with thoughtful expression. "I've been meaning to tell you something, Liv. Whatever your consulting work involves, and I know you can't discuss details, it clearly matters significantly." "What makes you say that?" Olivia asked. "The people who contact you when you're here. The way you shift instantly into problem-solving mode when those calls come. The fact that government officials at the highest levels seek you out personally." Diana smiled with genuine warmth. "I don't need to know what you do, just that it matters. And I'm proud our salon gives you the flexibility to do both." The acknowledgement reflected the evolved understanding between them, recognition of the importance of Olivia's alternate work without demanding details she couldn't provide. It demonstrated respect for necessary boundaries while appreciating the purpose they served. "Thank you," Olivia replied simply. "That flexibility has been invaluable." That evening, as Olivia performed maintenance on her rifle collection, she reflected on the remarkable integration of her seemingly disparate lives. What had begun as rigid compartmentalization between her civilian identity and military expertise had evolved into balanced expression of consistent capabilities in appropriate contexts. The precision that guided perfect haircuts also informed training methodologies that saved lives in crisis situations. The attention to structural relationships that shaped flattering styles also recognized threat patterns that conventional analysis missed. The same fundamental capabilities, expressed differently in diverse domains. For 12 years, Olivia had maintained her rifles in private, her exceptional skills known only to herself. For 4 years, she had systematically shared the knowledge those skills represented, creating capabilities that extended far beyond her direct involvement. The transmission had multiplied her impact exponentially, protecting lives she would never meet in situations she would never directly encounter. Some expertise remained valuable even when hidden, Olivia reflected. But its greatest potential was realized when appropriately shared with others who could apply it where needed most. The hairstylist, whose nimble fingers transformed appearances, had found ways to also transform capabilities that functioned when standard approaches reached their limitations. What truly mattered wasn't the specific techniques, but the fundamental principle they represented, that excellence under uncertainty required more than procedural compliance. It demanded adaptive thinking that created solutions where established protocols saw only obstacles, options where conventional assessment recognized only limitations, and hope where standard evaluation predicted only failure. As Olivia closed the hidden room containing her collection, she felt profound satisfaction in the dual expression of her capabilities. Not separate identities in conflict, but integrated purpose, expressed appropriately in different contexts. The quiet hairstylist, whose remarkable precision delighted salon clients, had found ways to also share specialized knowledge that created extraordinary capabilities throughout organizations facing humanity's most significant challenges. For 14 years, Olivia Blackwood had been cutting hair while her extraordinary expertise remained largely invisible. Now that expertise was serving its highest purpose, creating frameworks for excellence under uncertainty that would continue saving lives long after her direct involvement ended. Different applications, consistent capabilities, exponential impact. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.